People will use masks for their own individual reasons. They may personally be vulnerable. They may have events they want to make sure they're not unwell for. They may not have had COVID-19. We all just need to respect everyone's individual decisions.
She said what? Good question there, right, said Fred. Let's go ahead and listen to that again.
People will use masks for their own individual reasons. They may personally be vulnerable. They may have events they want to make sure they're not unwell for. They may not have had COVID-19. We all just need to respect everyone's individual decisions.
What? This is coming from the same woman who quite literally said that she is dividing society into two classes, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. Here she is on video saying exactly that. A reporter asked her about that, and she's like, yeah.
You basically said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, as two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so, yep.
Yep, that is what it is. Yep, and she's got a big smile on her face. Yeah, we're dividing society into two classes of the vaccinated and the unvaccinated. And now she's turning around just saying, oh, we have to respect everyone's choice here. So as we see, New Zealand has just scrapped most COVID rules. As the virus battle winds down, New Zealand also eliminated vaccine and testing requirements for travel. So we're going to take a look at that today, guys. We're also going to look at this, some tragic news out of Global Regina, where a member of their team has passed away, Matthew Rodrigapool, who died suddenly. The young man was just 24 years old, died suddenly at his home, and nobody seems to be questioning what could have possibly caused this. And of course, with just a little bit of digging, you can see that he was very proud to talk about the fact that he was fully vaccinated, looking forward to getting fully boosted up. So obviously this raises a lot of questions. But if you bring that up on this particular Twitter feed, a lot of people seem to think that it's apparently insensitive to look into what caused this young man to die, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to look at that. Meanwhile, some people and places are just calling it out for what it is. A second person just died of Guillain-Barré syndrome after receiving COVID-1984 jab in South Africa. The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority said that it has been informed that a second person has died of Guillain-Barré syndrome following vaccination with the Johnson & Johnson COVID-1984 vaccine. This comes after the regulator in August issued a media statement relating to the very first fatal case of GBS following the vaccination with the J&J jab. And in other news, guys, Pierre Poilievre has just been selected as the new leader of the Conservative Party. He is the official controlled opposition that will be going up against the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. And what does he have to say about vaccines, or at least what was his position on that from the beginning? Well, as Maxime Bernier here points out, Poilievre still claims that he was opposed to COVID mandates right from the beginning. That's a lie. Last year, he agreed with the idea that we had to be jabbed or else confined. He was only criticizing Trudeau for not getting more Canadians vaccinated fast enough. So that's the new guy we're dealing with, guys. So we're going to take a look at that and much more in this video. But really quickly, just before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. If you do appreciate my efforts here, you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, or you can join me on Subscribestar. It's a really good Patreon alternative. I have been kicked off of Patreon, in case you didn't know. You can also sign up here for a monthly reoccurring contribution. Thank you to everybody who does. E-transfers can be sent to Dan at pressfortruth.ca, or if you like to keep things old school, guys, you can send stuff to my P.O. box. Links are all located in the description below. Thank you so much to anybody who does take the time to support my efforts. All right, let's take a look at this. It's time to safely turn the page on our COVID-1984 management and live without the extraordinary measures we have previously used. New Zealand has eliminated all COVID-1984 related travel restrictions and testing requirements, marking the end of what was once some of the most strictest pandemic-era rules in the world. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern lifted all vaccine restrictions starting September 13th, as well as lifted the requirement to self-test after arrival. Going forward, testing will simply be encouraged, but not mandated. It's time to safely turn the page on our COVID-19 84 management and live without the extraordinary measures we previously used. Today marks a milestone in our response. Finally, rather than feeling that COVID dictates what happens to us and our lives and our futures, we take control back. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just a bunch of fluff word nonsense because you don't have any control. In fact, you are just a puppet being pulled on a number of strings, and at any point in time, they can announce the introduction of a new scary variant, and at the snap of a finger, I guarantee you, she would very quickly clamp down on New Zealanders just as bad, perhaps even harsher than she did before. So again, this is just more of that temporary easing, that calming before the storm, the eye of the hurricane stuff we're dealing with here. But this is just crazy coming, especially like I said, from somebody who thinks it's acceptable to say that it's okay to divide society into two classes of people. By the way, this is what happens in China if you're seen outside without a mask on. I mean, look what they're doing to this guy. It's just unbelievable. But anyways, just wanted to show you the hypocrisy coming from the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And speaking of that, this is a serious issue that has to be dealt with. I'm sure viewers of this channel have heard many multiple cases of this sudden death syndrome, or people who are just suddenly dropping dead. Well, that was recently the case with this young man, Matthew Rodriguez, who just died suddenly. Let's listen to a little bit of the report here.
Before we leave you this morning, we have some sad news to share. This is our first morning back on the air after a member of the Global Regina team has passed away. Our Matthew Rodriguez sadly died suddenly yesterday in his home in Regina.
Suddenly in his home. Young, healthy, 24-year-old man. But as I said, when you bring up the fact that he was fully vaccinated and he was, promoting getting boosted, people here seem to think that that's somehow insensitive. And, it reminds me of a guy I had a conversation with on Facebook. He's not really a friend. I'd say more of an acquaintance, I guess. And I saw, I was paying attention to his, I got vaccinated, I got boosted. And it was something like 5 or 6 months later that I saw this guy posting on his Facebook saying that he's having a serious medical issue. He has gone deaf in one ear. And when I chimed in and just said, did your doctor or yourself consider or look at the possible connection potentially to the vaccines that you got like 5 or 6 months ago? And the guy just lost it on me, just for suggesting, like, hey, did your doctor look at this? He was, oh, this is crazy, you conspiracy theorist. No, of course I didn't. And it's like, how can somebody just brush it off so quickly like that to say, no, that's ridiculous conspiracy theory? Like, wouldn't you want to maybe, inquire as to, is that possible? What could have happened here? In psychology, it's called cognitive dissonance is what people are doing here with coming up with sudden death syndrome, when they know deep down inside what's most likely the cause here. If you've never heard of that term, real quickly here, cognitive dissonance is the perception of contradictory information. Relevant items of information include a person's actions, feelings, ideas, beliefs, and values, and things in the environment. Cognitive dissonance is typically experienced as a psychological stress when persons participate in an action that goes against one or more of those things. So, according to this theory, when two actions or ideas are not psychologically consistent with each other, people do all in their power to change them until they become consistent. The discomfort is triggered by the person's belief clashing with new information perceived, wherein the individual tries to find a way to resolve the contradiction to reduce their comfort. So deep down inside, a lot of people get angry when you even say, hey, maybe this should be looked at. That's because they have an ingrained belief that's been programmed into them, but their own eyes are seeing things and experiencing things in life that are contradicting what they've been lied to about. This is why we need to continue to expose this stuff for what it is before more young men like this continue to suddenly drop dead out of nowhere. It's just absolutely crazy. And as we said, we're soon going to be having another selection in Canada, and this guy kind of jumped all over the freedom movement, the freedom convoy, the anti-vax movement. But as Maxime Bernier here points out, this guy was all for it right from the beginning, and nothing's going to change about that. Get a load of just what he says here.
Well, what they needed is vaccines. Yeah. That was the one job he had at this point in the crisis. Now he tries to throw in a cape and says he's the hero that's going to solve the problem that he caused. Yeah. The reality is the rest of the world was being vaccinated in January and February. Vaccination rates in the US and UK are twice what they are here in Canada. The rest of the world is reopening while we're being confined to our basements because of the wave of the variants that this prime minister allowed. Why did the rest of the world have access to vaccines in January and February while we did not?
Does that sound like a man who's against this global inoculation program, who claims that he's been against the vaccines from the beginning of COVID? Clearly from his own mouth here, the horse's mouth, he's not against it, ladies and gentlemen. And if indeed he is selected as the next prime minister of this country, you better believe he's going to be doing the bidding of his puppet string pullers. All the promises made along the trail will just vanish. The freedom convoy stuff, the mandates ending it all will all turn out to be lies. Him saying he wants to turn, Canada into a cryptocurrency haven, it's all nonsense. I've been around long enough covering these things. In fact, if you haven't seen my my series called The Democracy Deception, I did one about Harper called The Harper Deception. I did the Trudeau Deception. I did the May Deception. I did the Mulcair Deception. And then I wrapped it all up with a fifth video, The Democracy Deception, explaining how all this works. As you see here, the money changers, that is the cartel of banking families whose inheritance dates back centuries and who have manipulated world events through their power to create money. These people are behind democracy. Not just the puppet politicians we're supposed to vote for, but the very idea itself. And more importantly, guys, I followed it up with part 2. The Democracy Deception. What's the alternative? And if you haven't seen that yet, guys, please give it a watch. I really, break it down, and it's important to understand moving forward, especially as we head into another selection soon here in this country. Don't fall into the false left-right paradigm. This is the official controlled opposition right here, right now, and voting for this man is not going to save you from the powers that ought not to be. At this stage in the game, it really doesn't matter. Him or Trudeau. They don't care. Pick whichever one you like. The agenda for control is going to continue on just the same. If you want to have a better understanding of how that stuff works, guys, once again, watch The Democracy Deception Part 1, which I followed up with The Democracy Deception Part 2. What's the alternative? Again, don't forget to check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you all this information. And that's all for today, guys. Question this sudden death syndrome nonsense that has really just become a new phenomenon in the last couple of years. I wonder what could be causing that. Let me know your thoughts in the description below. Please click that thumbs up button and share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. And stay tuned, my friends. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.